determines how hard they're going to push. Here's what it is scientifically. It's called EPOC, okay? Or oxygen debt. Don't get caught up in the science, but everybody in this room knows what this feels like. If you go up a large flight of steps, when do you breathe the hardest? At the top, right? After you get to the top, that's when you're like bent over. If anyone's ever done a 100-yard dash, right? At the end is where you begin to breathe hard. That's what this is. So if we go up the steps or we do a sprint, afterwards the body has to catch up because it didn't get all the oxygen it needed for that activity. So it has this catch-up effect, and it's called EPOC. It can last up to 24 to 48 hours, this effect. After this workout, your heart rate's going to be elevated a little bit, your hormones have changed, your respiration is going to be elevated slightly, and you can burn fat up to 24 hours to 48 hours after this workout. Okay? Now, a lot of people in research say, well, that's not that significant. It's only 15% of total calories burned. However, in studies that do a combination of resistance training and cardiovascular exercise, they showed in men, this wasn't in women, but in men, that men over a 2-day period while they were resting after the workout burned over 700 calories over what they would have. That's a lot. That's a ton. That's more than 15%. Yeah.
What are the detriments to doing this to your body?
As an instructor, okay? These 4 things do what? They cause the right hormonal response. Breathless. We want people to get breathless to the point where they have to rest. Climbing the stairs, doing the 100-yard dash, right? Did you feel breathless in the workout? I was trying to watch and make sure you did. We want people to burn, right? We want periods of time where their muscles are burning. We also want them to lift heavy. This is called mechanical failure. This is the hardest thing to do in the metabolic effect workout because we're using light dumbbells, correct? That's why there's so many push-ups. That's why we also do explosive plyometric type things, because that kind of gets the muscles to get this explosive power effect. And you want them to sweat. These 4 things, in order to generate this EPOC, this afterburn, this metabolic effect, you need to go into your workout and say, I want to get, we call them the B's and the H's. Breathless, burning, heavy, and heat. That's my goal. That's what I want people to do. That's why one of the things that a lot of people will see in this workout is that, people keep coming in and every week they pick up 5-pound dumbbells. That's not getting as heavy, is it? You want them to go, they should go as heavy as they can with good form. Okay? As soon as their form starts to go, they should be dropping the weights and using a default, right? Or going to a lighter weight for the remainder. And the question always is, well, Jay, what do we want? Do we want them to drop the weight and go to a lighter weight, or do we want them to, let me just get this back on, or would we rather them go as heavy as they can, rest completely, and go back on the heavy weights? The better effect would be stay as heavy as you can, drop those heavy weights, walk around and rest, come back to the heavy weights. Okay? That would be the best way to do it. But those are the 4 things you want to accomplish. Okay? I just want to go through 2 studies, and then we'll call it.
I just have a question. So an elite athlete?
Study I told you about. This was a whole body resistance training workout. It lasted 31 minutes. They did 4 circuits of bench press, power cleans, and squats. What do you notice about those movements? Bench press, power cleans, and squats. Those are big body movements. It's none of this stuff, right? It's big body movements like this. That's why we only do those. And they were done quickly in succession in a circuit, kind of like what we do, right? 3 exercises, boom, boom, boom. And short rest periods. Supersets, that just means 2 exercises done back to back, right? And they went to, it says here, failure. In other words, they lifted heavy enough weights to, by the time they got to 10 reps, they failed. One way of saying metabolic effect is that it's a failure-based workout, but that would scare the hell out of people if you told them that, right? So we call it a rest-based workout. What they did is after that workout, they measured their metabolism before the workout, and then they measured their metabolism every 2 hours after the workout, and at 48 hours, they did their last measurement. And at 48 hours, the metabolism was still 19% elevated. At 24 hours, it was 21% elevated. That corresponded to about 700 calories burned while they were resting after the workout. Okay? Here's the final study I'll talk about. These are 2 studies actually. One done January 2008, one done September 2008. This is really interesting for all of us. what they did is they took two groups of exercise, right? They said, all right, one group of individuals, we're going to have them do cardiovascular exercise, then immediately after, we're going to make them do resistance training, okay? Then they took the other group and they said, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to give you the exact same amount of cardiovascular exercise and the exact same exercises, but we're going to make you do a resistance training exercise, then jump on the treadmill for a minute. Then we're going to make you do another resistance training exercise, then jump on the treadmill. And they wanted to see which one was more effective, which of these two protocols were more effective. Look at the difference here. This is the intermixed group, the group that did weight training, cardio, weight training, cardio, weight training, cardio, compared to the group that did all cardio and then weight training. Increased aerobic capacity 21.2% more. The group that did both combined. Their lower body strength increased by 35.4% more. The lower body endurance, 52.8% more. But look at the fat burning response. 991.8. 10 times more fat burning effect was done by combining the two. That's unreal. That is unreal. Here's the other thing. A follow-up study showed that when you do workouts like this, you don't get a sore for whatever reason. So the group that did the cardio and then the weight training all together had more delayed onset muscle soreness. The group that did this back and forth did not have that as much. Isn't that interesting? These two studies I showed you are what this workout's designed around. Okay? Okay, so any final questions about this? The keys I want you to get, okay? Here's the keys that you want to get from this. Is that really, this workout is about hormones, not calories. Control the hormones, the calories take care of themselves. That's the first thing. Okay? The other thing you want to understand is fat loss doesn't equal weight loss. Okay? That's an important distinction. Fat loss does not equal weight loss. Okay? The other piece of this is that what we're trying to do is we want people to get anaerobic. We want them to rest. Why do we want them to rest? Because there's an intensity threshold they must reach in order to generate the metabolic effect. If they don't reach it, if they come in here and they're just doing this stuff throughout the whole workout, that's great, that's healthy, but it's not getting the metabolic effect. That's why the rest is important, okay?